Good afternoon, everybody. I am going to give it another minute as people are registering and getting let in the webinar. Welcome. I think while people are getting in, I'll just do a little housekeeping. If at all possible, as you have questions throughout the presentations today, please put them in the Q&A function in Zoom if you can, and we will certainly get to those questions as they come in. And aside from that, I am going to begin largely this symposium. We've been doing it for a number of years now. It's really designed to help producers comply, be aware of what's going on with the hemp program and other need to knows in the hemp world. So we have some good speakers on today. I'm thankful for that. And I will turn the meeting initially over to our division director, Wondirad Gebru, to welcome everybody. Go ahead, Wondirad.
Yeah, good afternoon. With technical issues, I'm just promoted as a panelist now. So good afternoon, everyone. This is one of the key functions for the department and then for hemp program, which we have been doing this for, I think now probably more than 10 years, and then basically every year providing a regulatory update, providing update on the status of the program and the new opportunities for hemp producers, particularly farmers in Orange. So, and then as we prepare for our planting season, and this is a key time to be basically on the same page, and then also to provide a heads up on what is new, what producers need to be informed and then take action in order to increase compliance with the hemp rule. The whole hemp rule, as we all know, is about THC control, and therefore the most important is the selection of varieties with regulated or compliant THC level that would basically, avoid any regulatory, issues and then potential crop destruction. And therefore, as much as possible, this is basically information. Always we have it during this springtime. April is our month for this conversation, and then we are happy to also have all partners, as I'm sure probably you have seen the agenda, and also federal partners, and then others are also here with us to provide this information and update. So having said this, I'm very happy to basically be here, and then thank you also for joining us. And we are also in the middle of making some rule change to basically reflect the actions that we are currently doing, and then also to help communicate what is expected of reporting requirements, FSA requirement, and then what we do with non-compliant plant material, and then how to dispose particularly high THC plant materials, and then things like reporting. These are minor tweaks to basically create more clarity. Otherwise, no policy change in terms of the way we regulate. And then we also, we are aware of with upcoming farm bill or federal legislation, there might be also potential policy change that's coming from the Fed. And then we will also accordingly may make some adjustment based on the extent of the change, either legislatively or rule change, depending on what comes out from the federal front. Therefore, pending that, these are just minor changes from the policy change but we are very happy also to hear and then get any feedback, particularly written or in any way you can forward to us as well. So having said this, I will pass on to Bryan, the program manager, to basically kick us and then go through the agenda. Thank you so much again for joining. And yeah, I wish you all best deliberations in the coming hours. Thank you.
Thank you, Wondirad. Can everybody see my screen right now?
Not yet. Yes.
Oh, you cannot. All right, let me
Yeah,
try
it's on.
again.
It's on.
Oh, you can see it?
Yeah.
Okay, good. Okay, great. So welcome again, everybody. For those of you who don't know, the Colorado Hemp Program consists of giving people a legal platform to grow hemp on specific land areas. We do have an online hemp portal that's really helped the program out in the last several years. It requires various reporting, most notably planting and harvest reports. We do inspection and sampling, and of course, compliance work. And as Wondirad noted, the biggest compliance that we deal with is THC. However, there are other important aspects of the program. I will cover some of them. Basically, the program is myself and Jessica with the support of Wondirad. It's been larger at times, it's been smaller at times. You'll see here today that things have changed over the years. I will be talking about what's happened with registrations and inspections and testing, some of the compliance and outreach work we're doing. I'll reiterate what performance-based sampling is, talk about some of the rule changes that Wondirad had mentioned, and also talk about the open seats we have on our Hemp Advisory Committee. As you can see here, things have really, the market's really corrected itself after 2019 when everybody was growing hemp and we had close to 3,000 growers. Now we're getting closer to 100 growers. It seems to have evened out over the last few years, which is a good thing to see it stabilize. After the appropriations bill last November that outlawed or banned or put restrictions on certain hemp products, that's created some hesitation by a lot of cannabinoid growers. So I kind of anticipated a drop this year. It's a little early. We do get most of our registrations coming in April, May, and even June. So it's early to tell, but the trend is going down already. The good news is because namely of increased fiber production, the acreage is going up. So even though cannabinoid growers, the number of cannabinoid growers go down, all we need is a few farmers with growing circles or pivots of hemp to really increase the acreage. And that is happening. And I anticipate it's going to continue this year. Our intended use it's fluctuated over the last couple of years. CBD went back up, as you can see, last year, largely due to a couple predominant CBD growers increasing their acreage. But you can see the fiber's gone up quite a bit too. And as far as what we're seeing with inspection and sampling, we didn't really see a lot of changes over the last year. It's about the same number of people, less than 10% of folks that are testing above the allowable THC level. It got better last year as far as people growing negligent hemp or hemp greater than 1%. It was, only 4%, almost half of what it was in 2024. And there was 178 samples analyzed by CDA and CDPHE in 2024. The 45 samples analyzed by the CDA lab was increased a little bit from 2024. We kind of focused a lot on indoor grows last year, so we selected more indoor, basically all of them last year, because that's where we're tending to see more of the higher THC hemp. And we selected about 30% of everybody that is registers. That's basically what our federal mandate is with our state hemp plan. And I will go on to the outcome of the inspections. Most of them are compliant. We run into a few issues, mostly record keeping. We occasionally get folks that do not submit planter reports or harvest reports, so we don't know that they did not plant until we go there and look and see that they had. There still seems to be confusion on lots. We're going to have FSA speak next about that, but some growers will submit a planter report and include multiple varieties in the same square footage or acreage, and that needs to be separated out. Some people fail to report all the varieties, like they might report one variety and then we get there and find out there's multiple varieties. And the FSA farm track field number seems to be missing on a lot of planter reports. It's gotten better in the last several years. We've worked very closely with FSA and registrants to try to correct this. However, we would like to see that get better. We've had occasionally folks that don't cooperate with an inspection, and unfortunately, we do have some folks that don't pay their inspection fees. For those of you that are growers, you might be aware that there's a fee associated with getting inspected. And so what we've been doing with the higher THC issues over the last couple of years, we have gone to civil penalties for high repeat THC offenders. If it is greater than 1%, we are having an agent of CDA go to the farm and ensure that the lots are disposed of in approved method, whether it be composting, tilling, burning, bearing, there's several different methods that are approved. We constantly work with law enforcement, our state partners at Marijuana Enforcement Division and CDPHE regarding apparently unregistered hemp or particularly high THCA flower. And we work closely with FSA to ensure all crops that are planted are certified with the Farm Services Agency. And for those of you that are connected to our system, our emails, we send out timely email blasts to registrants and people that indicate on our website they want the updates. This is how you above the green arrow is where you get the updates on our website. We do have you see the newsletter sign up at the bottom there. So if you're interested in getting that, make sure you get on our website and click on those. And then we have a directory, a hemp networking directory that has been useful to some folks. What it does is the directory will list, when you examine it, people that are in the hemp industry. There's producers on there. There's testing labs. There's ancillary businesses that are involved in either sampling, testing, processing, manufacturing. It's worthwhile to look at. And if you want to be on that, please click on that previous link and put yourself in the directory. And I want to touch on performance-based sampling because this is very important this time of year as people are registering. When you get ready to plant, you can petition to the department to be excluded from mandatory THC testing under certain conditions. They include if you're using certified seed or clones, if you're registering as an R&D producer, if you've produced compliant hemp for 3 years in a row of the same variety, and for plants that we know are certain that don't test high in THCs, include immature plants like microgreens, hemp greens, transplants, and other immature plants. We also allow flexibility to petition for those who are producing industrial uses, non-consumable uses like fiber or grain. And once you file a petition, the petitions are on our website, and there's a link directing you to the petition when you submit your planting report. We need to see those. We need to see those for each planting that's done for the year. So if you know you're going to plant certain varieties throughout the year, please submit the petition to us. Here's where you can find it on our website. And once it is approved, you can be omitted from getting your crops tested unless there's a reason for us to do random inspection or a for-cause inspection, which we could do at any time. I'm trying to keep up with the questions here. Okay. Anyway, as far as engagement's been this year, we were at the Industrial Hemp International Conference last month, formerly NOCO. That always seems to be a worthwhile conference to connect with people in the industry. We've got today our annual symposium. We still participate in the Cannabis Regulators Association, CANRA, which is an organization of the states, both for hemp and for medical and recreational marijuana. We share ideas and updates regarding the regulation of cannabis regularly. The hemp regulators group is hemp specific. That was something that was actually started by Colorado in 2014, and we currently proctor it, and that's a very useful internal group among states and tribes and our other regulatory partners, where we share ideas and get updates on what's going on with different states, tribes, and what's going on federally. We do put out newsletters quarterly. I showed you earlier where to sign up for those. And we do have a website that's updated pretty regularly, and I'm working pretty closely with our comms team to get Instagram and Facebook communications out there. So if you use social media, please keep an eye out for the department's social media pages. Wondirad mentioned rulemaking. So on April 3rd, we met with our Hemp Advisory Committee. You can see that special session on our website under meetings and events. It's recorded. We went over a red line rule document. We are currently looking to schedule a rulemaking hearing in June, and we are hoping to have an effective date of September 14th for these rules to be effective. As Wondirad mentioned, there's no sweeping changes. These are largely things that we've noticed since we've aligned federally since 2022. Excuse me. So they're more or less, growing pains. Most of these rules are really designed to make it more clear to the producer on what they need to do. One of the underlying things I've experienced is disposal of crops when they apparently fail due to poor health. We do still want to give flexibility for folks who are culling male plants or diseased plants, but we want to basically remove the ability for a grower to simply say their whole crop was destroyed by grasshoppers or spider mites and just disappeared. We want documentation of the crop failure. The current rules do not require growers to notify the department if they did not plant. So that leads us not knowing what there is that was planted or not planted to inspect. And it also doesn't give us good numbers that we're required to report to our federal partners at the end of the year on what was planted and what was harvested. And we feel the need to clarify requirements to the Farm Service Agency because there apparently is confusion on what producers need to do with FSA. Excuse me. The current rules exempt research institutions from from pre-harvest testing. However, we may still require testing. We're just clarifying that and rule. Our intent isn't to, overregulate researchers. However, there are private researchers that we do inspections on. We even can do random inspections on universities. So that's more of a clarification. And as far as, testing, I mentioned earlier that there's a $125 fee for the inspections that we do. Our rules also allow us to charge for lab analysis, but we haven't. We didn't really need to several years ago, but the cost of sampling or testing in our own lab is there. We'd like to supplement that a little bit. So we're suggesting the ability to charge on a per sample case. I mean, generally on compliance inspections, we only collect one sample, maybe two. And also for the registration fee for institutions of higher learning, we've always waived that. We're considering not waiving that under the assumption that some universities get funding for that. And honestly, issuing a registration to a research institution isn't much different than issuing one to a commercial producer. I mentioned earlier that we have 5 physicians expiring at the end of July. The farmer from the cooperative, a commercial farmer, somebody from a research institution of higher learning, somebody from seed development and genetics. Actually, that's 4 seats. And once we replace those are good for 3 years. Generally, we're looking for a diverse representation demographically throughout the state, including, geographic, ethnic, backgrounds, a record of engagement with the commitment to the hemp industry over a period of time. And there's also, any kind of recommendations from others that would vouch for you, or basically references are always a good thing in applications. Farmer from cooperative should have experience in agricultural production, servicing various services, individual farming members, and experience in cooperatives. And the seed genetics position would involve experience in developing THC genetics, plant breeding, knowledge of hemp phenotypes, and preferably a member of an agricultural seed genetic development or other hemp cannabis boards or associations. For the higher institution, the preference is to be associated within an institution of higher learning, experience and knowledge of conducting plant or other hemp research. Commercial farmers, we're looking for experience and knowledge, producing reliable, consistent THC, commercial farming in general, and specifically to Colorado. And really, that's all I wanted to cover because we've got more people on today. I will be on later at the end of, towards the end of our symposium to talk about, sampling guidance. And if you are able to capture this QR code or look on our website, it's there too. We are certainly accepting positions for the Hemp Advisory Committee. So with that, I'll stop sharing and I will turn the meeting over to the person I deal with mostly with FSA in Denver, Doug Andersen. Doug, please feel free to.
Bryan,
Yeah.
do you want to, I don't see anything in the Q&A, but if anybody has any questions, do you want to go ahead and let people raise hands and ask questions about your presentation?
Absolutely. I don't see any now. Maybe we'll let Doug go, and if anybody wants to put a question in the Q&A, go ahead, and I will try to address questions when I come back later in the symposium. Did anybody have anything burning right now? Okay, great. Go ahead, Doug.
Alrighty, thanks, Brian. I do have a slide deck here, not many slides, but let me get shared and get this all pulled up, and then we'll get going. Alrighty. So, I guess once again, yeah, thanks for having me or having us at FSA. You're going to get two portions here. So I'm on the farm program side, and then we'll have Brian present on the farm loan side of things. So the kind of what I'm going to go through here is the whole just the crop reporting process and what registrants or producers need to do in order to get certified with FSA and then therefore meet the CDA requirement and AMS requirement. So the first thing as a producer or hemp producer you need to do if you've never done business with us before is go to just farmers.gov, and if you scroll down about towards the bottom of the page, you'll see a spot where it says find your local service center, and then you can enter the state and county, and then that'll give you the physical address of the office, the phone number, and then the contact person for that office, which is usually our county executive director. But I can't say that that's always the contact's always going to be the correct person. We've had a lot of turnover, especially in the last year, so that might have changed. But as far as the number and the address, that should get you to where you need to be. And the reason you're contacting your office is you need to set up an appointment. So two things we need to do before you can certify a crop is establish a farm. So when we are establishing a farm, we do need a current deed if you're the owner on the land, or if you are leasing or a tenant, we need a current lease that the county office can view, and that just helps us establish one, where the land is itself, and then also we need correct ownership and then operatorship listed on that farm record. The next piece of information we need is a business partner record. So with the business partner record is how you would set up your corporation or your individual in our software. And then these two kind of coordinate together to give us what we would eventually generate as your crop report. So the farm, the farm record, what that is that's what I was saying. We would need either a deed or a lease to get this started. And what it is, it's made up of a GIS representation, and then we've got the listed operator and owner on that farm record. And then this is kind of come into play, especially for hemp producers, but the minimum size of a farm can be as small as 1/100th of an acre. To set up your business partner record, this is where we would complete the AD 2047. So this is, if you're looking at it here, you're seeing it's almost always going to be that we're choosing a new customer, and then you would put in your the name of your operation or your individual name, and this is where we would collect all your personal information and then your tax identification number as well. All right. Okay. So other forms that might be needed when we're doing this is the AD 1026. So this is for conservation compliance. This is going to be required if you're participating in any USDA programs, and you are going to receive USDA benefits. So this would include NRCS, FSA, and then crop insurance as well. The AD 1026, what it is is it's essentially saying that you're going to be in compliance with ATL provisions, and that is highly erodible land, so you'll have a conservation plan in place. And this is only needed if you're going to be growing outdoors. So indoor grows, you will complete the 1026 if you want to participate in USDA programs, but you will not need to. There's a box you can check on there that says that everything will be grown inside. And then the next thing is the 941. Again, this will be required if you are going to be requesting USDA benefits. And what this is run through the IRS, and it's just saying your adjusted gross income is below a certain level for the 3 previous years, and then you would be eligible for USDA benefits. So once we have the deed or lease in place, the FSA office can create the farm and the business partner record, and then ultimately that'll lead us to certifying your hemp crop. So the main thing, that the whole reason we're doing this is that we need to create a lot number, or the lot number for CDA purposes. What we've come up with is the farm number hyphen tract number hyphen field number, and then subfield letter if applicable. So and what that's going to allow us to, that number is always going to be unique, because we will have the same farm number in different counties, but there should never really be the same farm and tract number in multiple counties. So when we'll get to the next slide. When we're looking at this here, the farm, this is the FSA 578 that is generated after you report your crops. So your administrative county is going to be up here. The farm number will be a line below, and so this will be the first part of your lot number, and then your operator. So this should list the name and address. It's also the same that is associated with CDA. So if you are the producer growing hemp, you'd be listed here. And then we come down to the tract number. This would be the second portion of your lot number. And then one block over is the CLU or the field number. So of course I have these blacked out, but we would go this hyphen tract number hyphen 1 hyphen A, and that would be for the first variety of hemp. So and then once this is generated, so we generate this in the FSA office, we will have you sign this as a producer. And then Bryan had kind of talked about that sometimes we don't get these numbers directly transported back to CDA. So if you're a hemp grower and you get this form, you can actually just pass this along to CDA, and they know what numbers to pick off the form to create the lot number. Okay. So reporting, when you're reporting to FSA, you do need to supply the local office with a valid AMS license number. Each variety being planted requires a new lot number, and then this will be indicated by that new subfield letter. So when we were just going over the lot numbers, I had that subfield letter A in there. Every variety after that would be B, C, D, and so forth. And it needs to be broken down into a lot number by each strain. And then I know that there has been some issues with as far as the strains not showing up on the FSA 578. For FSA purposes, that doesn't necessarily matter. We just need to make sure that when you're telling us that you planted different strains, that we have broken that down into separate lots. There's a field ID at the bottom of the certification that and you can use it's a 4-character code you can enter. But if you would like to you can ask the county office to enter that field ID, and that'll kind of just help you keep track of which varieties are being input. And then you see the screenshot here at the bottom is that AMS license number. So the license number that you receive is just going to be those last 6 digits of the 104655. And then the 08 is how we format it for Colorado. So, and we can't proceed with processing the 578 until we get that AMS license number in there. Okay, so varieties. FSA has 5 different intended uses for producers to select from when they're certifying. These are on the screen here. So we've got CBD, fiber, grain, seed, and sets. This has also kind of been a known issue since we've started working closely with CDA, but we're aware that CDA has several more intended uses. Due to our limitations in the crop reporting software, as a hemp producer or hemp grower, you do need to select one of these 5 categories, which best fits the end use of your plant. So for continuous grows are those grown inside. You will need to report with that to FSA within 30 days of each new planting. So, and then if you're having multiple plantings in a month, you can actually use that average planting date. And so you would just be reporting to FSA once a month with an average planting date. And then the same rules apply, that you still need to obtain the farm number and report each variety as a separate lot. And sometimes this will be in square feet, or I guess oftentimes this will be in square feet. That's okay. We can, at FSA, it's just a quick conversion from square feet to acres. But we do, again, need, even on indoor grows and continually planted, we need those varieties broken down into separate lots. So hemp for research purposes, this is not near as common, but hemp that is proved to be grown for research will be reported with an X status, and this is the code for experimental. If you're reporting experimental hemp, it is not required to be broken down by lots, and it can be reported using that average planting date, similar to the continually grown hemp. The only difference here is that, again, it doesn't need to be broken down into lots. It can just be one big experimental lot. And then the producers licensed directly with the USDA who perform research will have an R, a letter R in their AMS license number. Transplanting and propagating. So if you're growing indoors with the intention of transplanting the crop outdoors, it's not required to be reported to FSA until it is moved and planted in the location where it will be harvested. Producers that grow hemp for propagation purposes, which means you plan on selling the plants to other producers, you will report the intended use as sets, and then similar to the experimental, you will not need to report the different varieties. This can just be reported as sets, and then it will be we'll be using the average planting date and just one large area rather than broken down into different lots. Okay, deadlines. The acreage reporting date for hemp in Colorado is July 15th. It does vary by state, but I think it's either 8/15 or 7/15 across the country. With that being said, we do encourage you to report your hemp to FSA as soon as possible after the planting. So, ideally it would be within, a week or 2 after getting your planting report with CDA. If the hemp is planted after the acreage reporting date, the crop will need to be reported to FSA within 15 days of planting. Again, the continuous grows need to report within 30 days of each planting. And then if there's multiple plantings within that 30-day period, we can just use the average planting date. And then the last part, which the part I hate doing and why we bring this up in the first place, is if we are not meeting these deadlines, the July 15th the 15 days after planting or 30 days after planting for continuous grows, the offices are required to charge a late file fee to the registrants. And I, like I said, I hate doing this because you don't really participate in any USDA programs for the most part. So, but it is, it's a $46 fee per farm. So, and for hemp, that's usually just one farm, but that's still a $46 fee that, you know, just because we didn't meet the July 15th deadline. So, you know, if we get it, ideally we can get everything moving and have our reports in by that date or within the other alternative deadlines. So yeah, that was a quick rundown of the FSA process. Do you have any questions for me? That I could hear a little something. I'm not sure if it was a question or a just some background.
Oh, I was on mute. Veronica has a couple questions in the Q&A. I don't know if you can see them, but she asked, where is the subfield for the strain variety name? And also, where is the option for multi-purpose variety such as fiber seed?
So there is an option for multi-purpose, and we would choose that. I guess I actually pulled that from the presentation from last year. So if you're reporting multi-use, it would be two different line items, and so it would be we report the same field once as fiber, and then that same field a second time as seed. And then the county office will know how to do it because we do it with fall seeded small grains for grazing grain also, where we just check a box that it's a yes for multi-use. And the other question, trying to look at this here. What was the other one, Brian? I'm not seeing it.
Well, I think it was, I think you might have answered it. Veronica, are you on? Did he answer all your questions?
There's a couple more outside of Veronica's if you scroll up also.
I see that. Yeah, thank you. Veronica, go ahead. You can go, Veronica.
Okay, thank you so much. Sorry for the confusion. Doug, thank you for the presentation. Just a few quick questions. So back in the day, there used to be opportunity for USDA kind of grants related to what you just presented for like high tunnel situations. Do you know if any of those grants are still available to any of us, especially in the hemp realm?
So I think that Brian's going to present after me, and he's with Farm Loan, so he might have some more knowledge about that. But
I'm
as far
sorry,
as
you're USDA, right?
I am, yeah. So we're the farm service agency, and we've got the farm program side and then the farm loan side. So
Okay.
I think Bryan Cook is with the farm loan side, and he can probably touch on some of that.
Okay, thank you so
Yes.
much. And just to confirm, did you say there is an ability to do a multi-purpose crop for?
There
Okay,
is.
awesome.
Mhm.
Because
Yes.
I feel like tracking varieties is really important federally and
Mhm.
statewide. So I just wanted to confirm you said yes to that. Thank you.
Yes, there absolutely is. Mhm.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Yeah, and just we kind of need to move on, but there was another question I think directed at you, Doug, about Pueblo FSA processing hemp-related funding requests. I don't know if you want to address that now or you want to get back to. I don't know, Geoff. Did you want to clarify what your question is, Geoff Jackson? I don't know if he's on there anymore. And there was a quick question about how, I think this is directed at me, how does Colorado compare to other states in hemp acreage? While we are one of the leaders, we are no longer the top producer. There are other states that outproduce us. I don't have the numbers in front of me. I know Kentucky, I believe, had more acreage, possibly some other western states. I think California was approaching or passing us, and maybe Montana. But if you send an email to our general hemp email, I can get the FSA acreage numbers for you. Unless you have them and you want to put them in the chat. For the
I can get them for you.
Okay, yeah, if you could put them in the chat, that would be helpful. That would help me out. And that way we can move on. Because I see Brian's waiting patiently, and Brian was going to address give some information about FSA loans and funding. Is that right, Brian? Thank you for joining us again this year.
Sure, no problem. Yeah, that previous question about the high tunnels, that's actually an NRCS equip type program that's either cost share or just out and out grants. I don't know what their funding is. I think that one varies by fiscal year, but those were through our sister agency, the NRCS office across the hall here. For the FSA stuff, for the loan stuff, yeah, all we have to offer is debt. We don't have offer on the grants or anything like that. But just to give a very brief general overview of the FSA loan programs, we are what they consider, we're restricted to what they consider production agriculture, and hemp has been approved as a actual production agriculture crop through federal law, actually since I think 2018. We've been called the lender of last resort. That was the more dark part of that, to help people that are in financial trouble and kind of backsliding through that scenario, or the lender of first opportunity, which of course in the hemp things, that's probably more applicable because a lot of these operations are fairly new. There is what they call a test of credit. In other words, we can't take business away from the private sector. So if you're working with an existing commercial lender, there is a chance for us to assist with them to make the loans. But otherwise, our program fits a kind of a narrow window between not ready for prime time commercial lending and this wouldn't work no matter who you are or what you did, kind of a thing. There's two basic kinds of loans and then three types of loans underneath each of those basic types. The direct loan, you've seen that or heard about that. Those are the loans directly through USDA, financed through the Treasury. The guaranteed loan program is a program where we just act as a guarantor for the local lender to make the loan. They use all their own paperwork. They are actually the applicant to us in that case. And that comes into play when the lender is willing to do it or wants to do it, but for either an equity issue or a cash flow issue or just a regular risk issue, they could apply potentially for a federal guarantee to provide kind of high cover for that, and gives them an opportunity to go with longer rates. They can't charge over their average rate on that type of thing, even if it's a little more risky as far as their ratios and that type of stuff. And there is actually a secondary market that they can sell those, so they don't have to hold them. Most of the hemp operations are going to be the direct loan scenario, being the smaller operations, newness of the operation, a reticence for commercial lenders to deal with. Even though hemp is legal, it's still, not all bank boards are going to go with that type of thing. Underneath the direct loan and the guaranteed loan, there's three basic kinds. There's your annual operating loan, and we group those together under what they call operating loan. There's an annual one, which is for annual input expenses. Those are based on a 1-year term, paid back in full every production cycle. The other part of operating loans is your term operating loan, which is for machinery and equipment and that type of thing. And those are on a 7-year term. Rates are fixed on the direct loans. Right now, that operating loan stuff, it always hovers right around 5%. It's can be modified every month, but it's right around that point. The real estate type loans, those are limited to 600. The operating loans combined between the term and the annual is limited to 400,000. That used to be a lot of money. Yeah. Nowadays, maybe not. The real estate loans, we do get a lot of inquiries on that. There's one eligibility restriction on the direct real estate loans that you won't find necessarily at banks, is that you do have to have 3 out of the most recent 10 years of some form of ag management experience evidence. Schedule Fs are usually what that is used as documentation to prove that up. There are some things to replace that for 2 of the 3 years, but at some point the real estate loans do have that restriction that you don't start out buying the land and then see if you can make it work. Those are 40-year terms. There are some joint financing things that can bring the rate down to, those are at 3.75 right now. The other ones, if it's just straight financing with us, that always hovers right around 5. Actually, there's what they call a limited resource on those, so it really would most likely always be 5% rate on that. The most difficult thing, that's eligibility considerations and basic debt levels. The most difficult thing is the feasibility scenario, as to if you're eligible, if the crop is eligible by virtue of them approving the hemp as an eligible crop, but the financial feasibility depends on, you're basically interviewing the plants and Mother Nature at that point to find out truly what kind of normal yields would you have from that crop. And obviously that's going to depend on your location, your irrigation, soil condition, that type of thing. There's a few, if you have your own history, production history and related income and expense history, that's really the key part of the application, because that's going to be the basis for your realistic projection of income and expense and profitability potential. And then ultimately after that, what kind of margins left over after your input expenses to service any kind of term debt. The official hemp notice for FSA's loan programs hasn't been updated in a while, but I did just see an email from the national office saying they're going to update that. I haven't seen or heard of any significant or actually any changes to the verbiage that was on the previous one. One of the things, or a few of the things that had addressed before, and I'm sure they will continue with that, is the most difficult thing with the hemp program before was that we didn't have a very established price discovery mechanism. There was a lack of, aside from your own production, a lack of good third-party sources for yield potential, although that's gotten better. And actually, maybe the most important is we didn't have verifiable bonded purchasers that we could actually lever or have them honor our lien, basically, in our UCC filings and that type of thing. So those restrictions and considerations for eligibility and feasibility on ours are still out there, is that you do have to have a USDA approved license. You do have to have a contract with an actual purchaser, and that then of course would beget the planning price and that type of thing, so we can do some realistic eligibility and feasibility projection. Or if it's a new operation or that type of thing, without that production history or any of that type of thing, then enterprise budgets are your best source for an objective third-party source. I know they'd mentioned the U Kentucky in this old notice here. I have looked at their stuff. They do have a lot of good information, but a lot of the land grants have been continuing with their research and that type of thing. So actually the best way to do any of that, if you're looking at a new strain or a new product or whatever, is do the internet search for enterprise budget hemp and pick as many as you can find. And the best way I've done it is just start putting that information off each one of them in columns on an Excel sheet. And eventually it just kind of whatever develops the picture. That probably dates me a little bit, but then you get an idea of what's actually going on in the industry. That way you don't have to go out there and cross your fingers and hope it works. You go to school on everybody else's putt, research, or as I say, make the grad students do all the heavy lifting for you. One thing too, Annette mentioned that if it's in a controlled environment, your measure will be square footage most of the time. There are ways, like I say, to convert that, but when you're looking at any kind of yield data, make sure that you convert it to whatever applicable and most realistic units of measure for that production cycle. Otherwise, that's kind of the basic overview of the whole thing. If there's any questions. We have had some difficulty getting our names on checks and different things from different suppliers, even with a contract. That's actually the weakest link in this whole scenario. I mean, you can grow it and all that kind of stuff, but that is still evolving, I should say, maybe, as far as getting the purchasers to actually honor the legal liens that are filed. We're having a little bit of difficulty with some of that right now, but that's just things to be cognizant of as you go into these projections.
Excellent. I don't see any other questions. Are you sticking around for a little bit? Are you out of here?
Normally I would, but today I have
Okay.
to hobble. I have to hobble off to the chiropractor right now.
Yeah, that's cool. I mean, if you wouldn't mind putting your email in the chat. I can't recall if I put it in the agenda. I guess I didn't, but you put it in the chat in case anybody has any questions. If anybody reaches out, wants to get a hold of with anybody on the symposium today, you can simply reach out to me and I'll forward you to Bryan or Doug or Melissa coming up. So
let's see it.
So thank you, Bryan. And I know that we have Scott patiently waiting with CDA. And Scott, thank you, Bryan. And Scott is going to talk about hemp and feed and what CDA is experiencing. Go ahead, Scott.
Thank you, Bryan. I don't have a whole lot to talk about here. We're basically in the same position as last year. The only currently approved ingredient is the mechanically extracted hemp seed meal for layers at up to 20% inclusion rate. One thing I would like to mention, about 1.5 years ago, the memorandum of understanding between FDA and AFCO ended. And so we have a couple of new ingredient review tracks that are possible. Of course, the FDA still has their food additive petition process, but they're also launching the animal food ingredient consultation process. It's kind of, excuse me. It's kind of similar to the generally recognized as safe process.
Scott, if I can introduce, can I just, I'm sorry to interrupt you. I'm not sure if you're logged in twice, but there's a echo coming back when you speak.
There is.
Yeah. I saw your name come up twice, so I'm not quite sure if you logged in on 2 devices. However, I just want to make you aware of that.
Okay, how about now?
Sounds good to me.
Oh, okay. I don't know. There was a hidden screen on my other monitor. I wasn't aware there were 2 open. So let me start back just to make sure everybody here heard what I said. Currently, the only approved hemp ingredient is the mechanically extracted hemp seed meal for use in layers at up to 20% of their diet. About a year and a half ago, the memorandum of understanding between FDL and AFCO ended, which had to do with the ingredient definition process. FDA is launching their animal feed ingredient consultation process. Of course, they still have their normal food additive petition process. The new consultation, or they also refer to it as AFIC, AFIC, is kind of similar to the generally recognized as safe process. However, from what I understand, what it results in is an ingredient where they're going to use regulatory discretion. There's no true approval for the ingredients through that, but it is a pathway forward. AFCO has partnered with Kansas State for their SRIC, and I'm going to have to remind myself, scientific review of ingredients. And that replaces AFCO's feed ingredient definition process. And the end result, they're going to have teams of subject matter experts through the university that will review submissions. And if everything's satisfied through them, then it will result in an AFCO definition for the ingredient. So for more information on that, if you go to AFCO's website, they've got all the links and information there. And that's really all I have at the moment. Again, not any new ingredients currently. And we'll just have to see what comes through.
Any questions or comments for Scott regarding hemp feed?
Veronica has her hand raised, Bryan.
Oh, okay. I apologize. Go ahead, Veronica. Please.
Hello, can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Okay, thank you so much. Scott, I've been trying to reach you. You and I have never met. I appreciate your time. Sorry for harassing you, stalking you down. I was trying to meet with you before today. I didn't think I could make it here, but I have made it here. So I just wanted to ask you if you have been informed about the previous efforts made by the industry back in 2017 regarding the animal hemp foods bill and the conclusion of that back in the day.
I'm sorry, could you repeat one more time? What
Yes, sir.
notification of what?
Of the 2017 industry effort to do the animal hemp foods bill and how that concluded in legislative action.
BDA had a hemp and animal feed working group. I think it was about that time.
Yes, sir. That is exactly what I'm talking about.
Okay.
Are you familiar with the report that came out of the
I
conclusion
was part of that.
Oh, yay. Okay.
Yes.
So you might remember me, actually. So my comment today is after all these years, there has been no submission to FDA, even though they made it very clear at the point back in the day that they just wanted industry to move on a petition or submission to approve the low-hanging fruit of hemp, which would be hemp seed oil, and hemp seed meal cake, which other countries had already approved. And there was already research, white papers, etc., done that they would readily emit and receive as part of that submission. That has never been done. Would we both agree on that at this point?
Yeah, it's my understanding that there were a couple of starting attempts at it, but it wasn't concluded by any of the groups that were submitting those.
Yes, sir. Thank you so much. So just for public record, I did not recently, actually, I think it was January 12th, 2026, submit the petition to FDA for the low-hanging fruit as discussed previously with the work group, etc., with all the exhibits and supporting documentation. It has been submitted to FDA at this point. It has not been accepted in their system, and that's been quite a few months. So I would ask that Colorado Department of Agriculture would please make effort to work with FDA to unstuck, maybe is the right word, to help move forward this submission for approval, which has been long awaited for and long overdue.
Okay. So a few of us from the department attended AFCO's feed administrator seminar last week and did have a brief conversation with some staff from the FDA. They did mention they had received a submission, and they're currently still rebuilding from employee losses over the last year or so.
Yes,
And
sir.
it's normally quite a few months long process for ingredients to move through that
Yes, sir.
edited petition.
Yes, sir. And so it's been multiple months. And the only thing I'm asking, I filed it and it's pending. It actually hasn't been received or accepted by FDA. But from what I'm hearing you say, that they have acknowledged that they see it in the system. So I'm
Yes.
asking that they actually formally accept it as the filing as done so back in January, so we can continue moving forward with that process, especially if FDA comes back with questions. I understand there's a timeline, but it hasn't been officially received in the system as far as I can see.
Okay. And honestly, you would need to go to the FDA to discuss that. We don't have any role in that process. So you would need to ask them if they can give you specific timelines or reasons for it not going further through yet.
Yes, sir. But according to what you just said, it was discussed this weekend or this last week with the APCO meeting. So I just would ask, in all due respect, from when we as Colorado originated this action, and after all these years that it actually has been completed and submitted without official acceptance, that maybe you guys perhaps could, maybe put a little notice in to FDA and say, can you move this forward? That's it.
Yeah, honestly, other than the brief talk last week, like I said, it briefly came up in a conversation. We really don't have any power to get things moved through.
But you do have the ability to put a small suggestion in as part of the CDA back in the day with that work group, legislative mandated, and all these years later with a submission actually provided to the FDA to approve this by a Colorado hemp farmer, seed breeder, and organization.
If there's an opportunity to mention it, that's really all we can promise.
I see.
I think I understand your position, Scott and Veronica. Maybe it'd be appropriate at this point for time, Veronica and Scott, to carry this discussion offline. I know you've tried, Veronica, but perhaps you guys can connect after our meeting again, if that's possible. If that sounds good. I just know that we have other speakers patiently waiting, and for the last couple of years we've had CDPHE come on a couple different occasions and talk about lab certification. Last year I think they talked about the benefits of lab certification. We've seen issues internally with labs perhaps delaying reporting test results. I don't really have a lot to add beyond that, but Melissa, could you share what kind of updates? Excuse me, I'm wrong. I am right. Melissa, it's you. You're up. Thank you, Melissa.
Sure, no problem. Thank you all for having me today. I am Melissa Beadle. I am the Laboratory Certification Program Manager here at the Colorado Department of Public Health and Environment. My team is responsible for the inspection and certification of our hemp testing facilities, both in and out of state. And so for the symposium today, we reviewed our last year of audits for any sort of patterns or consistent issues to discuss. And the great news is there wasn't any major overarching concerns. With that being said, I just have a couple of reminders for our testing facilities. Just in general, please ensure your SOPs include current step-by-step instructions with sufficient detail to perform the assay and include equipment operation. Also, please inform the CDPHE team of any personnel changes. We have a dedicated hemp lab cert email address, which I will drop in the chat for everyone. As well as please, if you can have your PT providers send their reports directly to us, that's really helpful for us as well. Any changes to your approved methodology must be revalidated and documented prior to testing samples. I know sometimes we get busy in the hustle and bustles, but those documented changes and revalidations must be approved by our department prior to implementation. And that includes changes in location. So if you're moving labs, just feel free to reach out and we can help navigate that with you. Also, the CDA and USDA reports, labs need to make sure they keep up to date on current reporting requirements for each, and they are located on their respective websites. Lastly, feel free to reach out to our team with any questions or concerns. That's all the updates we have.
Oh, well, that was great. Thank you, Melissa, for helping us get caught up. I appreciate it.
No problem. Any questions for me?
Thank you for putting your email in there. I see we have a couple lab people on, so now's a good time, or you can always reach out to Melissa when we conclude today. Thank you for providing updates. How many? I did have a quick question when I'm thinking of it. How many labs are you aware of that are currently specifically? I know they're listed on your website, but sometimes it's hard to navigate. How many labs are actually doing regulatory hemp testing?
Question. Let's see, 1, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 is what we have listed.
Okay. I sometimes it seems like not all of them are doing it. I know there's like a handful of them that do most of it. So, but yeah. So anyway, there is a list on our website and CDPH's website of labs that do testing for those of you who are looking for labs to do your testing. And you really have to kind of look into that site and look at what their certificates are for, whether it's for molds or contaminants or for specifically THC, that sort of thing. So, okay, super. And just going back to the last discussion on feed, Wendy had made a comment. I don't know if it was anything enlightening or you wanted to expound on, Wendy, about the approval a couple of years ago for hemp feed for egg-laying chickens and that sort of thing.
It doesn't look like she's on anymore, Brian. I tried to
Okay.
see if she wanted to unmute,
Okay,
but
that's cool.
I don't see
All right.
her anymore.
Okay. Well, that's even better. So I've been trying to promote you, Geoff, to a panelist. I see you're on. Let me try one more time to promote you, because we do have somebody from the National Hemp Association on, and I'm excited to hear from Geoff. And Geoff, are you there? I see you're there, Geoff. Are you prepared to? There you go.
Here I am. Can you hear me okay, Brian?
Yes, yeah. Thank you, Geoff.
I could answer the question that was posed to Wendy. I work very closely with Andrew Bish and the Hemp Feed Coalition, so I can give you that update. But it is, it was a process that took Hemp Feed Coalition almost 5 years, $1 million of private sector money to get this study approved through AFCO and through that FDA. But believe it or not, it took the findings and the results to be posted in AFCO's approved feed booklet this year to make it official. So it is now official for hemp meal to be fed to egg-laying hens, and it's one of approximately anywhere from 50 to another 100 categories of animal feed that has to go through that process.
Thank you, Geoff.
And now for the update from the National Hemp Association. I thank you, Bryan and Colorado, for the good work that you guys have always done and have been leading on. We certainly look to Colorado to help guide us as we're moving through this challenging scenario and times. Many will know that over the last year and a half, there has been legislation that has been introduced that has changed the landscape. And there is legislation that will be implemented as of November 12th of this year that could have serious effects on the industry, particularly on the cannabinoid space, that and the beverage space, that if there is not any corrective measures taken, executive orders or legislation passed, that will really complicate issues for the hemp industry. As many of you would have seen, the USDA hemp report came out within the last 10 days, and it was good news for the hemp industry across the board. It was offering that there was a robust industry that has developed over the last number of years that was offering up to $800 million worth of impact across the country. A lot of that is on the floral side, but what we saw was a significant increase in the fiber and grain segment, which showed about a 30% increase. I certainly was pleased with that. As you may or may not know, although the National Hemp Association has been on the forefront of all hemp segments, we as a board decided almost 2 years ago now that we would only focus on fiber and grain. But that was somewhat short-lived in that the White House invited us last fall to a meeting where I thought we were going to discuss moving the fiber and grain segment forward. And they wanted us to talk about bringing together a strategy for the entire industry. And we then engaged with others in the hemp segment, the other advocacy groups, and invited them to participate with us in developing a strategy, because, to use the words of many in Washington, asking to be regulated is not a strategy. And so we worked together. Not all of the other hemp organizations wanted to participate. Some of their board members did, so we were happy to have their participation in the drafting and then final execution of a document known as Pushing Progress. And that is the strategy that we have presented to the White House and to Congress about moving forward. And the reality is that we stepped back and looked at hemp to be no different than corn. What was corn's process? Starting out as food and feed, certainly similar to hemp. And then hemp became intoxicants, very much like corn became moonshine. We're still in our moonshine stage with intoxicating hemp beverages, but we want to follow a strategy that will allow it to go through both an FDA and a TTB process, no different than corn alcoholic beverages. And that strategy is available for everyone to look at. It's under our sister organization, which is called HEMI, Hemp Education Marketing Initiative. Hempinitiatives.org is where you can find that document, and we certainly welcome everyone reviewing it and commenting on it. That document has also become the really the basis on which we are now moving forward in Washington. We've had a number of meetings in the White House, West Wing of late, but now we are moving legislation forward with the support of Congressman Barr out of Kentucky. And certainly we are trying to make that piece of legislation that he has announced that he wants to bring forward as an all-encompassing hemp industry piece of legislation. I just ended my participation in a call with the FDA, who we have asked to comment on our contribution so that we can try to make sure that we are moving this forward and have all stakeholders' input. It might be something that is introduced as quickly as the end of this week, but certainly we are all working towards having that legislation move forward. And it addresses a new definition of hemp, industrial hemp, cannabinoid hemp, and it talks about the different segments moving forward. It addresses the president's CMS program, which would have also sunset as of November the 12th. But we've got language in that document to keep that program alive. And we're also addressing animal feed in it. We are asking for Congress to approve hemp feed for domestic animals or animals that are not going to enter the human supply chain, so that we can start to build upon that opportunity. And just to give you a sense of how big of an impact that would be for fiber and grain farmers, the numbers that Andrew has shared with me on the impact alone of the hemp meal for egg-laying hens, it would require approximately 250,000 acres of hemp grain to be planted. And that is based on a model where only 5% of farmers who are currently growing other rotational crops would be called upon to grow hemp for hemp meal for egg-laying hens. So by asking for Congress to also include domestic animal feed as a permitted use, that would certainly step up the need for hemp grain to being in the multi-million acre category. So we're working on behalf of the entire industry, dragged back into the cannabinoid space, and somewhat happy to be offering our services and our reach to do so. But I think that we are all finding that November 12th is coming very quickly, and we need to get this addressed, taking into account the challenges that are confronting us in the congressional schedule with midterms coming in November, which means that most members of Congress will be gone starting the end of summer, early September. There is the option for us to possibly put some of this language into reconciliation, particularly as it pertains to hemp beverages. That is a potential revenue generator that would generate excise tax like alcohol. And we're following that same path in proposing how it should be regulated. And that certainly would provide for a significant contribution of federal excise tax to the Treasury based on the projections of the hemp beverage industry, where they see that in the next 5 to 10 years, they'd be generating through a regulated market some $30 to $40 billion worth of products that could generate $4 to $5 billion in federal excise tax. That alone qualifies hemp beverage as a standalone segment to be put into reconciliation. Reconciliation is a legislative process that requires it to have an impact on the federal budget, and obviously this would have a positive impact on it. So we, as I said many times, we're dancing as fast as we can on behalf of the industry, but also taking into account the needs of the states, our stakeholders, but also listening to the National Governors Association, the National Association of Secretaries of Department of Ag, groups like CANRA, the Attorney General's Association, deputies, Attorney General's Association, and the list goes on and on. So we're trying to bring everybody into the discussion to make sure that their interests and their concerns are addressed. And it's not an easy process, but we're certainly thankful for the willingness of people to participate.
Well, thank you, Geoff. It's great to see you and have Andrew on the call too. It's great that you both are on.
Is Andrew here?
I saw him somewhere on here. I don't know if he's still there or not, but I saw his name pop up. So anyway, thank you. And I
if
see.
there's any questions, I'm here.
Yeah, I see. Anybody that has a question, please raise their hand. Veronica has her hand up. Veronica, do you have a question for Geoff?
I do. Thank you so much. Geoff, can I ask you some questions?
Of course.
Okay, number one, I just got to say I totally agree with you about hemp being treated like corn and carrots. We have overregulation. But I want to go back to some of the things you just said. I hear you about domesticated animals and getting Congress approval. But I would like to, all due respect, ask you, would you support an existing submission already to FDA for the low-hanging fruit of hemp to be approved for livestock feed, according to other international standards which have already been approved?
Yeah, Veronica, this question has been asked of us previously. And as someone that comes from the world of government, I'm also respectful of the fact that government has
It's just a yes or a no.
Role. Well, there's no yes or no answer.
Would you support it or not?
The answer would be no. The FDA has a purpose and a regulatory authority, and we have to respect that.
And I totally agree. And back in the day, in 2017 FDA came to the table in Colorado as a stakeholder with a legislative mandate to discuss this issue. They made it very clear that they were waiting for the industry submission to approve the low-hanging fruit, hemp seed, hemp milk cake, hemp seed oil, for certain classifications of livestock, right? Including fish, etc. According to other international studies and standards already approved. So all these years have passed. That submission, which is actually pretty simple, has never happened. And now it was submitted. And you're saying, no, you do not support that effort. I'm happy to send you those documents. You haven't even read them, and you've already said no.
Well, but you only gave me an option, Veronica, of giving you a yes and no answer. I'm happy to look at those things and see what we might be able to do. But the reality is that this world has changed considerably since 2014 and then since 2018. With the advent of all of the intoxicating products that are coming to the market have really thrown up both yellow flags and red flags, both in Congress and in the FDA. And so that really has changed the way that
I agree.
organizations are looking at things.
I respectfully agree with you, but I would like to segment it into two parts: psychoactive or cannabinoids, like you just said, and like the low-hanging fruit, which is non-intoxicating. If you would agree with me, FDA has already approved for hemp to certain elements of hemp to be approved for human consumption, most of which is imported from Canada, right? We have hemp seed, hemp hearts, hemp seed oil. That's already approved on a human level. So with the low-hanging fruit to be approved on a livestock level, and now that the submission actually has been done as in January, again, happy to provide you those documents. Would you guys just support FDA moving forward in that activity via protocol?
Yeah, so Veronica, I would ask you to take into consideration that human hemp products, hemp seed, hemp cold pressed, mechanically pressed oil, hemp protein, have not been approved by the FDA, but they have
Yes, they
been.
have. GRAS status is approval
Well,
by
but-
FDA.
No, that's not. It's generally accepted as safe. It has not gone through an FDA process. It was based on a self-regulatory submission to FDA to demonstrate that these products are safe. GRAS itself is now being reviewed as to whether or not the FDA will continue to accept those processes. We need to just be careful about how we use language that moves our industry forward. We can't say that
Sir,
things have been
with all
improved
due
when they haven't
respect,
been.
I thank you for that. But with all due respect, are you telling me that GRAS status is not FDA approved? We've had these products on the market, public market, for decades, and those are for human consumption. I'm just saying that now the petition for FDA approval for animal feed, which has long started to go by Colorado efforts, has now been submitted, and you are still insisting on public record that you all are refusing without even reviewing the submission itself.
Sorry to intervene, Veronica. I think let's move for the sake of the other presentation. And then if you have anything remaining time, probably we can entertain. Thank you, Geoff, for joining us. I think it's a pleasure to have also broader
Wondirad, I also appreciate you, Wondirad, but
Wondirad, we do have one other hand raised. Bonnie, Joe, if you wanted to go ahead and have your comment for this speaker.
Bryan, you can proceed.
Yeah, Bonnie, please, Bonnie, please, if you have questions for Geoff, please go ahead.
Yes, hi. Geoff and Bonnie Jo Peterson. We haven't actually met, but I know of you very well. So with the barbell, I know the language, the last discussion draft I saw had that the FDA was going to be setting the serving size for THC. But with the Medicare pilot program rules and the FDA's letter regarding the 3 milligrams, is there talk about getting that 3 milligrams into the barbell?
Yeah, so I spoke to Congressman Barr myself last week, and he submitted the language to be an amendment to the Farm Bill, and that wasn't really a well thought out process. He wanted it to just be put in there as a marker bill, but since it was not germane to the Farm Bill, he had to withdraw it. It would have upset, quite frankly, the process of getting the Farm Bill approved had he insisted on it being an amendment. If you're not aware, there were more than 300 amendments that were submitted to the House Ag Committee, and they're going through them right now. We are redoing, updating, and consulting with many stakeholders to provide Congressman Barr and his staff with updated legislation. And I don't want to speak to what that might look like at the end, but we are certainly working towards that goal.
Well, thank you.
You are on mute, Bryan.
Thank you, Geoff. I appreciate it. Thank you for your time today. Would
Well,
you
we're
mind
here to help.
Would you mind putting your email in the chat? That way you could connect with anybody on here, including Veronica, who apparently had more questions, and we can take care of that. We do have more material to move on to, and Veronica, I can see you're still on, so if you could wait till I'm done with my portion coming up here. Geoff, I don't know if you're staying on or not. Are you going to be on till 3 or not?
I can stay on.
Okay. It sounds like we still have a question for you. So if you're okay, otherwise I'll direct Veronica or anybody else has questions to contact you directly. So I will move on at this point for the sake of time. I have a feeling we'll probably have some time towards the end. I will begin by sharing my screen. Again, where do I do that? Oh my goodness, Bryan. There we go. Okay. Can everybody see me now?
Yes, yes, you are.
Okay, cool. Let's see here. So anyway, I am going to, I see we have a couple people from labs and samplers on. I will be addressing some of the challenges we've seen with samplers and labs, going over kind of reviewing pre-harvest sampling guidelines and post-harvest sampling guidelines. And honestly, most of the issues I'm seeing day to day during sampling season with our authorized samplers in labs really have to do with using the online portal. And whenever we run into this issue, you need to please be sure to reach out to me or the general hemp email so we can see if there needs to be a fix with OIT. I know there's been a couple of little tweaks we've had to do, and I really do appreciate some of the valuable feedback I've gotten from both laboratories and samplers when they're trying to use our hemp online portal. So I guess I didn't really update this slide, but nothing's really changed much. The authorized labs did seem to struggle at first reporting either an absolute uncertainty or a method of uncertainty. But I think that's fairly well accepted now. I know that some labs do a percentage of uncertainty, which could be around 7%, or the absolute would be just a fraction of 0.3, like 0.08 or something like that, or 0.07% THC. Sometimes, I think this might be reflected by sometimes there's a new person in the lab that's doing the testing, doesn't always get the test results reported to us or to USDA or to the producer timely. Well, usually it's to the producer because the producer's paying them to do the sample, but it's very imperative that those test results come to us immediately and also to USDA. There actually is a CDPHE requirement that test results, regulatory hemp test results, be reported to CDA within 24 hours. So, it's, when a producer is they're anxiously waiting for their test results, and they're anxiously waiting for a good test result. But if it's not good, we need to move quickly and guide the registrant on what they can do as far as remediating their crop or worst case scenario, disposing of it. So the certified samplers, it's just didn't really see that many problems this last season, but we have issues with samplers not taking the sample to a CDPHE authorized testing lab. I mean, this is the responsibility of the producer to select a lab that is authorized or certified by CDPHE that's listed on our website. As a certified sampler, you should know what these labs are too. They're on the website. We were discussing with Melissa earlier, but it's important that the labs, any samples that get taken go to an authorized lab, that the chain of custody forms follows that sample. And I always request samplers to take photos of that and retain them for their own records. It's very rare, but in some cases, we might have to go back or another sampler might have to go back, and it's helpful to have pictures of what was actually sampled. And we continue, I don't really have any answers for the post office. Thankfully, we haven't had that many issues, but occasionally, there'll be a sample that's delayed or lost by the post office or delayed for a significant amount of time. I'm quickly going over the guidelines. This is something I prepared a few years ago, but it's always important to show up with what the items you need: clean shears, paper bags, toolkits, always helpful, material to disinfect your clippers with. You want to have sterilized samples in between each sample. The chain of custody forms are available. They're available in the training materials that are provided online. They're also available once you log into HOP. You can even get pre-populated chain of custodies off of HOP if you're in the system. That's our online portal that will pre-fill information about the registrant and what lots they have planted. Photographing, we don't need a ton of photographs, but it's always helpful to get a overview of what you're sampling. And it's also a good idea to get more close-ups of what you sampled. I'm sorry, I'm hearing somebody in the background. We might need a mute. So the procedure is the top 8 inches of the plant. That's as much as is allowed. And also to change your gloves in between each sample, just like you would sterilize your sample, your gloves in between each sample. That's not necessarily each clipping, because you're going around a field. Like if this is all one variety like Abacus, you're taking multiple clippings throughout the field to get a representative sample. But if you're moving on to another sample, if you're going on to a different field or a different variety, then you need to sterilize and change your gloves, and of course, different bag, different sample number, etc. And we want the bag sealed. We use evidence tape at CDA, but anything with a staple or a tape on there to keep the bag intact, the sample intact in the paper bag, is what we ask for. They need to be identified properly with the year, the month, the date, the registration number, and the sample number. If you take 1 sample, it's 1. If you take 8 samples, it's 01 through 08. And most of you, unless it's close to a lab on the Front Range, are shipping them. So it's very important to mitigate the odor with a plastic bag, the zip tie for odor mitigation. I know one of our samplers who's on here now did some experimenting recently with food sealing vacuum seal bags, and I think he was able to get a fairly inexpensive kit that you can seal, use in your kitchen to seal the bag and take the odor out. And boy, he sent some to us for our office, and I couldn't smell a thing when I got it. So if you want to go to that extra expense, you could do some shopping for food sealing kits. They often come with their own types of bags and things, but as long as you're sealing it with the paper bag, or, putting it in the paper bag first, any additional sealing you do is certainly going to help with that. And, usually when things get intercepted by the post office or somebody else, it's because of the way it smells. The chain of custody should not be inside the plastic bag. It should be outside the plastic bag because they run and drip. and are not legible and they fall apart. So those go on the outside of the sample, and you can put as many samples as you can fit into one box with the shipping label. And we generally recommend the priority mail boxes, but there's different varieties or different time periods of or priorities you can send things through the post office depending on what your customer wants to pay for. Generally it ranges from, I believe, $10 or $12 on up. This doesn't happen very often, but it can be very, very beneficial to the producer. If their hemp lot initially tests above 0.3% THC, but below 1%, they can combine the whole crop, blend the whole crop, and then have it sampled. And generally speaking, almost every time when somebody's combined the seeds, the stems, the leaves, and all the material together, and have it resampled, it comes back compliant. So in this case, we're dealing with a pretty large crop that was run through a combine. You can see it was put into, I'm going to say, about 200 super sacks. And the guidance is whatever subunits you have, whether it's super sacks, piles, windrows, whatever's been, left in or near the field, to randomly sample at least 10% of all the units. And a minimum of 5 units when possible. Obviously, it was not an issue with 200 super sacks. In this particular case, the sampler was very helpful with pictures. They were able to photograph I'm assuming it was at least 5, or actually in this case, it was, what's 10% of 200? 20? I don't. They photographed the subsamples they took in each super sack, and they even used placards and identifiers to identify each subsample. So if you have any questions about how this was done, please connect with me after the meeting if you want to go into more detail about it. But there's several different ways to do it. This is just one of our more experienced samplers who really has some novel ideas, honestly. And as far as using the portal, most of you that are samplers or even labs have had to create an account. And so often the issue with from year to year, from season to season, is not having a login because it's a new person, or losing the link. And there's ways to reset your password. If you don't even know what the login is, if the previous person at your lab doesn't know what that is, then often you do have to contact the program, and we can give you the information you need to at least get started on getting back into the system. Once you are logged into our system, you can view things. You can view, if you're a grower, you can grow your account. You can view your account. Same goes for labs. It's right here on the website. This is where you would create an email and password. This is where you'd get your registration information by registration number or business name. And then as a sampler, you can review the registrant information. It will have what they've planted. It'll have the registration number, the name of the registrant, the physical address, how many acres or square feet, and it will produce a sampler report that you can download. This is a more detailed view of the sample report. So as a sampler, this is very helpful to have a map of the area that you'll be sampling and the information you need to complete your chain of custody and complete your inspection. Here's an example of a planting report that's available online. So I'll just make a note here. It'll tell whether it's outdoor or indoor. It should have the variety. This is something that for an authorized sampler, it really shouldn't matter. If you were called by the producer to have a sample collected, you're there to collect a sample. You might see that on some lots that the producer did request performance-based sampling. If you ever have questions about that, about why they have a yes there, you can always let me know, but you've been contacted to collect the sample, collect the sample. Most people who I talked a little bit about earlier at the beginning of our seminar about reasons not to get sampled. And, probably one of the best reasons not to get sampled is if you have a 160-acre pivot. That takes hours to sample. If they're growing a big fiber pivot, they don't have to get sampled if they petition to the department. But you'll see that most people who are doing cannabinoid extraction, they're not exempt from sampling. So that would be something that you would sample. It would have the date, the intended harvest date, and you would want to schedule your sampling of them within 30 days of that scheduled harvest date. Closer to 30 days, the better. It can't be more than 30 days, but 30, 29, 28 days would be ideal. As we know, in the final days and weeks, that's when a plant's THC can increase more significantly. So the only allowance you really have, or flexibility you have, is time here, which is 30 days. All right, so I think most of the labs have this down once they get into the system. It's basically entering either an FSA lot number or sample ID, which is on the chain of custody, simply adding the total THC, the final result, and then indicating whether that's absolute uncertainty or method of uncertainty. As I noted earlier, the absolute uncertainty is a very low number. I'm going to say usually it's somewhere between 0.05 and 0.08, but a method of uncertainty of 6 or 7% would equate to about an absolute uncertainty of compliance. Most of the samples that you'll be receiving as a authorized lab would be a pre-harvest sample, unless you are being brought a resample or remediated sample. We've found issues with private labs not having the equipment or the ability to really grind or commingle seeds and stems and sticks and things. So we generally give the registrant the option of using our lab if needed, but it's certainly it's certainly an option that we have run into with the private testing labs or the CDPHE authorized labs. And then there's a place to upload the COA, the certificate of analysis, and the chain of custody. And I actually got through that in a decent time. So I'm looking to see whether I created any confusion or generated any questions from the samplers or the labs. Well, great. I guess I didn't create too much confusion. I will stop sharing. And we do have, it looks like we have a few more minutes. We don't have any hands up any longer. Do we have a question, the question and answer? I don't really see anything. Wondirad, did you have anything else to add to today's meeting?
Thank you, Bryan. I just want to thank all presenters who come to share updates and then communicate our stakeholders. This is annual event, and then we'll be having all, this, in addition to newsletter, as Bryan earlier mentioned. So this basically is on our outreach effort. And thank you for the conversation update from the national point of view, from front, and then also from particularly the key challenge, operational challenge. We always have to make sure we are compliant with federal requirements and an FSA registration, which is very critical. And so I think we'll continue our outreach, and the newsletter also will basically come on, keep on basically communicating, and then your email subscribing the newsletter, so that everything or anytime there is an update, we can also inform you. And then I think with this, I would like to thank all participants who have taken their time and then joined us today. I think having said this, I look forward to a good season. That overall the season is challenging with drought, and then looming the drought that potentially affect some outdoor acreage and then farming. But overall, from regulatory point of view, CDA and the program, we are always ready to hear and then support and also remove any regulatory bottleneck as it comes. I think having said this, thank you all, and then wish you all the best in the coming season.
Yeah, I'm going to echo that. Thank you so much for the presentations today, Geoff, and our sister agencies that came on today. And most importantly, I want to thank the people that participate in the program, the growers, the labs, the samplers. You are the people that help make the program work. So thank you very much. And please forward any questions to the program. Keep an eye on our website, sign up for newsletters. We do have a rulemaking hearing coming up in June. We haven't decided exactly when that'll happen, what date that'll be, but that will be coming. And if you are signed up for our emails, you will know for sure what that date is. So thank you very much, and we will see you next time. Thank you. Bye-bye.